Hi, and welcome to Chez Nauch, which is a little farm in the Charente in deepest, darkest France, middle of nowhere, which I bought in 2002. Reason I bought it is because hay meadows have been disappearing all over Europe, sadly. In Britain we used to have about 7 million acres of flower-rich grasslands, hay meadows and chalk downland and so on. And during the 20th century we lost about 98% of it. It was improved, it was ploughed up to turn into cereal fields, or it was fertilised and sown with a really simple grass mix to produce improved pasture, as it's known. Or it's now used for silage or whatever. But basically it almost all went. And it's such a shame because these flower-rich grasslands that we used to have so much of are teeming with life. They have loads of flower species, loads of butterflies, bird life associated with them, bees and so on. And in fact one of the drivers of wildlife declines, particularly of some of our rarer bumblebees in the UK, has been loss of that particular habitat. So the reason I bought the farm is to try and recreate that. There's 33 acres here, 13 hectares, and when I bought the farm, it was a conventional arable farm. Most of this was under wheat, but 15 years later it's now a meadow. It's not as good as it might one day be. It isn't as rich in flowers and wildlife as an ancient flower-rich meadow by any means, but it's getting there slowly. So if you'd like to come with me, I'm going to, over the next few days, see what I can film around here. Show you some of the flowers and the beasties that live on my little farm in France. This umbellifer that's very, very common in my meadow is wild carrot. So if you dig it up, it has a long thin tuber. It's not bright orange like a normal carrot, but it is the ancestor of the cultivated carrot. And it's quite good for insects on the flowers, and at this time of year, in August, there's always loads and loads of these guys. So let me zoom in. It's big red and black shield bugs. Very handsome.
These trees are pathetic though. They're all disease ridden.
Lots of them are mating. Let me just take you over here. Where are we now? There we go. Stuck together. They stay mating for days on end. Presumably this is mate guarding. Essentially, it's not that they actually need to be stuck together that long to mate, it's that the male doesn't want anyone else to mate with us, so he hangs on for days. Doesn't look very exciting. Interesting feature of wild carrot flowers is that many of them have a kind of purplish black blob in the middle. You can see this one does, which theory goes is a fake insect. It sort of looks like a small dark beetle or something sitting in the middle of the flower, and the idea is that that's a kind of cue to other insects that this is a good place to feed, so that real pollinators come along. I did some experiments with this years ago by chopping off the little fake insecty thing and seeing whether it affected how many insects came along, and it did seem to work. The flowers with the fake insect attracted a few more insects than the ones that I'd chopped it off. Look at this gorgeous guy. Something big buzzing around my head, and I recognised what it was and grabbed it. It's a rose chafer. Gorgeous. Kind of like flying emeralds. Beautiful beetles. Let's put him in the sun so you can see. Cleaning himself up. Sorry mate, my hand's a bit sweaty. I'll just pop him on a flower and we'll see if he'll take off. Beetles are just wonderful creatures, aren't they? This is a Wasp Spider. Get these in southern England these days. Presumably they get some protection from looking like wasps. It stops birds from trying to eat them, perhaps. Beautiful, gorgeous orb-web spiders that feed mainly on grasshoppers that jump into the web. Fantastic creatures. I don't know if you can see, they always have a very characteristic bit of webbing, a zigzag, thick bit of silk that runs beneath the centre of the web where they sit. Beautiful. One of the characteristic, wonderful sounds of life in the meadow in summer are it's singing of these grasshoppers, the very things that those wasp spiders like to eat. Different grasshoppers make different noises that their females recognise. Grasshoppers make the noise by rubbing their legs against their wings. Here we go. This is a male grasshopper singing to attract a mate, and this species has quite an unusual song. It's just a series of ticks, really. You can hear other species chirping away in the background. There's lots of different species of bush cricket to be found around here. Beautifully camouflaged. Hopefully, if you look carefully, you can see right bang in the centre of shot. There's one kind of hiding behind the leaves, but his legs are poking out. I'll try and circle around so you can get a better look. Crickets, distinguished by their from grasshoppers by their much longer antennae and generally longer, spindlier legs too. There he goes. Really, really difficult to spot if they sit still. They give themselves away if you manage to frighten them into moving. That's a female speckled bush cricket. You can see she's female from that kind of scimitar-shaped thing at the back end, which is her egg-laying apparatus. It's blackberry season at the moment, and I love to pick the blackberries to make blackberry jam, but I've got rivals for the blackberries. These shield bugs. There's almost a plague of them this year. Every blackberry has a shield bug on it, sucking the sweet blackberry juice out of the berry. Can't blame them, they're absolutely delicious. Hi, I've just found one of my absolute most favourite creatures at Chez Nauche here in the middle of France, which I shall show you. So, it's here. So yeah, I don't know if that's in focus. A praying mantis, gorgeous things. This isn't fully grown, this is a nymph. Probably the penultimate instar. Let's see if we can get him close. I'll just turn around, hang on a sec. There we go. So this isn't fully grown, it would have wings. You just see it's got little wing buds on its back, little stubby beginnings of wings, which tells you it's a nymph. The full grown beast will be a little bit larger than this. They're just so gorgeous, aren't they? Predatory, obviously, praying mantis because of the front legs, which are very powerful and covered in spikes, which they use for trapping flies and other insects that they spot with those big eyes. think one of the cool things about mantises is the way they look about. Their head moves independently, swivels about as they look for prey. I once did some research on mantises. They're famous because, amongst other things, because often the male ends up eaten by females when he's trying to mate with them. Sometimes during mating, the female will turn around and grab him and eat his head, and then the rest of him. But he carries on mating, which is pretty remarkable. Even after his head is long gone, the rest of his body will carry on copulating with the female, and seemingly even more energetically when the head is missing. I guess it's his last chance at that point. And it has long been thought that maybe this was deliberate, in that the males were happy to be eaten because it meant that they were providing a meal for their bride, and that the female would then produce more offspring fathered by the male, or bigger offspring, or better nurtured offspring, or whatever, and that therefore it was in his interests to be eaten. So we did some research on that, and actually, interestingly, the males do everything they can to avoid being eaten. I'm just going to turn this mantis round so you can see him from the front a bit better. There we go. They are very tentative when they approach a female. The females are much bigger than the males and easily capable of grabbing them and eating them. So it's a dicey business looking for a partner if you're a male mantis. And they approach the females very cautiously, sometimes from behind and then jump onto their backs. Sometimes they do a weird wiggly dance, wobbling their abdomen about like a belly dancer in front of her, which presumably is meant to impress and put her off eating them. But if she's hungry, nonetheless, she will just eat them. But I guess if you're a male mantis, you've got to give it a go, or else you won't have any offspring. And in evolutionary terms, that's what it's all about. Anyway, I shall let this beautiful little creature go. I can't tell whether it'll be a male or a female at this stage. But good luck to it one way or the other. Let's hope it has lots of offspring, and I can see them again next year. Always coming to see you. This fantastic beast is a carpenter bee. A lovely violet tinge to their wings and body. One of the biggest European bees, solitary bees these. They make big holes in the timber beams in my shed where they nest. Fantastic creatures. These hornets are magnificent creatures. And I've got plenty of grapes to spare, so can't really complain that they take a few. Never bother us people at all. They're not interested in picnics or so stealing our lunch, like some of the smaller wasp species. Dotted a few old bits of rusty tin around the farm because they're great places they attract some of the snakes that live here. They sit under there to warm up in the morning, so if you're lucky and you turn them over, you just might find something exciting.
Not a snake.
Maybe that one. Maybe
Not a thing. There's one more over here. Let's have a quick look. That one, sure, it has. This one won't be hot, but it has. Come on, look. Aha! That's a western whip snake. How exciting. Finny, have you got a... Can you try and get a close-up on him? That's really cool. Ooh, he's not very happy.
He's hissing at you.
Yeah, he is. Whoa. Calm down, matey. I won't hurt you.
Crazy.
Gotcha. Really beautiful.
He's still hissing at you. Just for this one.
Absolutely
Do you want to
beautiful.
talk about it just for a second?
They're not poisonous, these guys, but they're quite aggressive, as you can see. This one must be... Oh, he's pooing on me. He's a metre long, I would guess, if you stretched him out. There's only really two common snakes around here. There's these, the western whip snakes, and Aesculapian snakes. And these are probably the prettiest. They have this very distinctive, speckly appearance. Gorgeous beasts. We'll let this one go now. Better go back to her little hidey hole and have some sleep. Hope she doesn't bite me as I let her go. Anything under here? Oh, whack!
Grab it, go.
This is a beautiful Aesculapian snake.
Another one.
Hey boys!
Boys, I got another one. This one's snake.
Aesculapian snake.
These are vicious ones, aren't they?
These are usually pretty vicious too. We'll just have a quick look and then I'll let this one straight go.
Do you know, if you grab it, I'll do a film.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Let's
Okay.
just have a look.
If everyone's quiet, just a sec so I can...
Just try and get a little close up. What a beautiful snake. They're gorgeous, aren't they? Put you back under. Whoosh! Off she goes. Thanks for joining me on this little trip around my farm. Hope you've enjoyed it. You may not have acres of land to play around with and grow flowers for insects, but we can all do our bit, particularly in our gardens. If you've got any kind of space, however small, there's lots you can do to help, and wildlife really needs our help. Our insects, our butterflies, our bees and so on are disappearing, and I urge you all to get involved and do something. Some of my other videos talk about the things that you can do in your garden to encourage wildlife, like growing the right flowers, not using pesticides, making bee hotels, and all sorts of other stuff you can do, which might seem quite small scale, but if we can get thousands of people to do that, or preferably millions of people to do that, then it really will make a difference. So try and do your bit. Thanks very much.